Clause 7.5, Documented Information. There are 3 subclauses within Clause 7.5. Let's take a look at the first of these, which is headed General. Here, the standard outlines what documented information you need to have within your quality management system, which is firstly, documented information that the standard says you must keep. Examples of these documents are in the resources section with this video, but include documents like the quality policy, quality objectives, and the scope of the quality management system, for example. These documents need to be maintained, so in other words, regularly reviewed and updated as required. There are also other documents that the standard says you must keep. For example, we talked about calibration. We know that if equipment needs to be calibrated to ensure that it continues to provide accurate results, we need to record the equipment details like serial number, model number, etc., and write down the dates and results of when the equipment was calibrated. This can be referred to as a record. The standard requires you to keep certain records. Without going into too much detail, I recommend that you refer to the resources section included with this video, which lists the records you need to keep. And secondly, documents that you feel are necessary for the quality management system to be effective. So that's whatever documented information you need within your business to give people the information they need to carry out the processes as they should be carried out. Things like procedures, work instructions, vehicle maintenance records. Of course, this will be different from one business to the next, depending on what products or services you provide and how competent your staff are. So in other words, you need to have documents in your system that the standard says you must have, and in addition to these, as many or as few documents you feel are needed to ensure you can deliver products or services that meet customer and legal requirements. Moving on to Clause 7.5.2, which is creating and updating documents. All documents within your quality management system must be identified. That means there must be a way for you to be confident that only the most recent version of a document is in use. Your documents must have an identification and description. For example, a title, a date, author, or reference number. If you look at some of the documents that you've received from other companies, you'll see somewhere on the document a document identifier which tells them what version of the document has been used. There are lots of ways you can identify a document, but it needs to be something that's logical and easy to use. Here's an example. In this example, you can see a unique number that has been created to give the document a reference, followed by a version number, in this case version 1, a date, that's the date the document was approved, and the initial of the person authorised who has approved the document. So that's how you can identify a document, but the challenge is really tracking all of the documents that are in your quality management system and making sure that you keep on top of any changes and that you're confident that only the current version of documents are in circulation. You could set up, for example, a register that lists every document in the quality management system, including the business plan, policies, risk assessments, electronic documents, designs, and software versions, absolutely everything. And this register should be updated each time there is a change to record the latest versions. You'll see a master document list in the resources section, just to give you an idea. There also needs to be a process in place to decide how new documents can be created or existing documents updated, who is required to approve the new documents, and how the old documents will be removed from circulation to make sure that only the most recent version is in use. This could be someone authorised to approve documents at a department level or at a business level. So it could be the head of HR for human resource documents, or it could be the office manager or director. It's really up to you who the best person is to approve documents. Now let's take a look at Clause 7.5.3, which is control of documented information. Within this clause, you need to make sure that the documents within the quality management system are easy to access by the people who need to use them, as and when they need to. So for example, HR could be able to access all of the documents they need to access specific to their role and authorization, but everyone else in the business can only access documents within HR that they need for their employment. For example, various company policies, holiday forms, HR guidance documents. This means that confidential documents should be protected from unauthorized access, but it also means that you need to protect all other documents to ensure that people can't change them in any way to suit their own purpose. You need to decide how documents will be made available for use across the business and who will have access to the different types of documents. You need to decide how you're going to manage existing documents that need to be updated and what you're going to do with the old versions. You also need to think about how long documents and records will be kept. For example, some documents will need to be kept for a number of years for legal reasons outlined in legislation, but for others, it can be however long you feel it is necessary or useful. Then you need to think about how you'll dispose of documents that are no longer required. With old versions of electronic documents, it's a good idea to create a superseded or obsolete electronic folder where old versions of documents can be stored. That way there's an audit trail so that you can always refer back to previous versions in the event of any queries or complaints. Shredding documents, collection of confidential waste by an approved supplier. However you decide, documents that are no longer needed must be disposed of in a controlled way. Something else you need to consider: if you need to use documents within your quality management system that are provided by another organisation, in other words, documents external to your organisation and not created by you, which could be, for example, application forms, order forms, or a particular standard that you need to meet, you need to make sure that you always have the latest version in circulation, which means that you also need to record the version of this document so that it is current, and make sure that if it is updated, you remove the old version from circulation and make sure everyone is aware that there has been an update. Well, that's it. We've now covered documented information. So in summary, you need to make sure that you keep documents and records required by this standard, and any documents that you decide are needed to make sure that you deliver your products and services to customer and legal requirements, and that all documents are approved, controlled through identification and access, and that they are stored for as long as needed, then disposed of in a controlled way. In the next video, we'll take a look at Clause 8, Operation. See you in the next video.